Hi, this is Jan Grinneman for Embracing Your Murky and Magical. This is Modular 4, Trusting Your Intuition, Session 3, Techniques for Hearing Your Guidance, Video 19. In the last session, I just kind of introduced you to that still small voice and the voice of knowing. In this one, I want to give you several very specific ways to learn to listen to that inner guidance, that intuitive inner knowing. And the first of those, which I mentioned before, is meditation. So I'm just going to give you some characteristics and some things that might help you in your own meditation. First of all, let go of expectations. Many people say, I really cannot get into meditating. I can't calm my mind. The more I try, the more it just yells at me. So the key I have found is, as you learn to meditate, don't expect even to get your mind calm. Just sit, relax into your breathing, and let your mind slowly calm down. Don't fight any thoughts that come into it. Just imagine them flowing on through. In other words, let the thoughts come and flow through, but don't try to control them, because that just hooks you into them all the more. So you want to just maybe begin your meditation by practicing your breathing and just getting still. Don't expect anything else. And as you begin to practice that and you find it's a little easier to get still, and you start to find that, oh, there wasn't that much on my mind this time, then begin to go a little deeper. You want to choose a time with as few distractions as possible. That's another thing. Turn off the phone, the laptop, anything else that you might get interrupted with, so that you're really giving yourself that opportunity to get still. I like to have a designated space where I meditate. And I'm thinking it could be your room. It could be, for me, it's a studio, or I like to meditate in the garden because I'm going to have less distractions there. Get comfortable. Take a couple of minutes to just breathe deeply. I like to use the yoga breath, which is breathing belly, chest, diaphragm, chest, and then exhale, chest, diaphragm, belly. All that does is it allows you to totally fill your lungs to capacity, and then totally release all of that lung capacity, so that you are getting fresh oxygen into your body and your mind, so that you are getting your mind off of everything else you want to think of, because you're focusing on the breath. Take as long as you need to do the breathing, the deep breathing, and then just go into just a normal breath for yourself, and just be still. Mainly be kind to yourself and don't judge yourself. As I said, let those thoughts flow right in your mind and right out. Acknowledge all feelings and emotions that come to you, any thoughts. And I think it's really good to follow up this meditation with journaling, because when you're in that relaxed state, you're still receiving, and often that will come out in the journaling when maybe it didn't come out right during that time of meditation. You can try guided meditations also. We should have some of those, in fact, for purchase soon here on this portal. The guided can help you to get relaxed and get into a deep meditation, and then it should just give you quiet time so that you can listen for yourself. In addition then to meditation, I like to use visualization. This is, for me and for my clients, an excellent way to get into a deep meditative state. You can use a recorded guided visualization, or you can work with a coach, and you can eventually learn to do this for yourself. When I'm meditating, I automatically take myself through a relaxation process. It gets you into that place of meditation more quickly, And what else do I want to tell you about that? You really will need a guide initially, and I know that you can find tapes on this, and you can also get one from me for that. Oftentimes my coaching clients will actually record a session where I am guiding them in their visualization. So the visualization is meant to take you to a deeper level of meditation, almost to the level of hypnosis. You're so relaxed, and that gives you then that calm, quieter moment to just be and listen. I already mentioned journaling. I always journal following my meditations because I'm still in that state and that voice can still speak to me. I'm often amazed at how some message that I get in meditation really blossoms into a whole lesson for me when I start to journal. So don't forget to journal. That's another important part of listening to that voice. Another important way to listen to that still small voice is to sit in nature. I think just sitting and letting yourself be taken away by the birds, sound of a creek, the breeze blowing. In my garden, I have chimes. All of these things are very calming for me, and I can find that I can really get quiet and listen. In my garden, I am kind of circled by these large trees. I call it my circle of trees. And that still small voice often comes to me as if messages from those very trees. So nature can speak to us in many ways. It may be a cardinal that suddenly starts calling from the tree in the middle of your being still and quiet in nature. So many ways nature can speak, and it also is very calming and relaxing. For many people, jogging or walking is a time that kind of gets them into that zone. That's what we're really talking about, right? When we talk about going deep in meditation, it's getting into that brainwave state where you are calm, relaxed, and you can receive and hear. The rhythm of jogging and the rhythm of breathing, or with the rhythm of walking. I also walk the trail which goes through nature, so that combination is really effective for me at times too. The rhythm of the walking, the listening to the nature, and that voice will speak. Another important way that I hear that still small voice is through my creative process. And this was kind of a big realization for me. It's been many years ago now, but when I started working more abstractly rather than so realistic and with my paintings, I started to realize I was actually connecting with something deeper, with something beyond myself. Often I was surprised when I finished a painting. It's as if it had a message for me. In my first book, Through the Inner Eye, I have a chapter on this that I called Knowing More Than We Know That We Know. And so that creative process is a way that we get in touch with that intuitive, deep, still, small voice, which I call the voice of knowing. So creating is big. Painting I just mentioned, but writing also works, and I think that's why journaling is so effective, is because that voice can speak to us in that process where we're just kind of automatically typing away and you're not distracted with all these other thoughts, so you're able to hear that voice. Another thing that I utilize are totem animals. Almost anything. It doesn't even have to be a totem animal. Sometimes it's been an object or a happening that has come to me that I've actually just typed right into my phone the meaning, right? And sometimes certain words from what you find there will speak to you. But if a totem animal is typically an animal that kind of throughout your life you've been drawn to, that you felt especially close to. And I can give you a really good example for myself, though it's kind of interesting the way it came about. When I was a child, lived in the country, and when I was really small, we didn't have an indoor bathroom. And so you had to go outside to a toilet, even at night, if you had to go to the bathroom. It could be very scary. And we lived out in the country, and though I never saw a live bear, and all of the time I was growing up, we would always see their prints around our ponds, so we knew they were there. So I would have these dreams about bear that were like nightmares, and I know it came from having to get up, go outside to go to the bathroom. The other thing I think that caused that dream is we didn't have air conditioning, so in the summer we just had a screen door that we would latch. Often in my dreams that bear was just tearing right through that screen door. So for years I thought, I have this crazy fear of bear. They're always showing up in my dreams as a nightmare. And I was telling you how dreams were ways of hearing my intuition and my knowing. When in chaos, during a time of chaos in my personal life, the bear came to me in these dreams. And each time that bear was telling me something important, no longer threatening, but like the bear was protecting me. And one of the most strange dreams I had after I had gone through this very major crisis in my life, I had this dream that I was walking through a forest, and I walked into a clearing, and it was kind of in the mountains, so up to the right and up to the left were these boulders and no trees, just clear, and there were bear all over the place. And I walk into this opening and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, should I be afraid? And those bears stood up like they were saluting me, as if they were telling me, you learned to listen. Finally, you learned to listen. And I came to realize the bear symbolizes my intuition. It brought me all these important messages. That's an animal totem. So there's no doubt that bear is one of my animal totems. So you can just kind of think and write out for yourself what totems might be there for you. I have several. My maiden name is Hawkins. The hawk has always been an important totem. And even recently in my life, I have a hawk that comes here into this subdivision. I've seen him bathe in my creek. He has pecked at my door and stood there when I walked over to look at him. He preens himself at the top of my gate. And always I know he brings an important lesson to me, to see things from a higher perspective. Don't get caught up in the details so much, but look at the big picture. Totems, those are very important. You can get animal totem books and cards. You can also just look it up on your phone, but just pay attention to the animals that come into your life. The final one that I want to share is reading, and that's that book that jumps out at you or that you hear over and over and you know you're supposed to read. Sometimes it's a good friend that says, Jan, you really need to read this book. Pay attention to that, because that inner voice is telling you this book has some important messages for you. So I hope that gives you some ideas on how to pursue hearing that still small voice a little more effectively. Okay, I will see you in the next session, and thank you so much.